My name is Stephanie Nogueras. This is my sign name.
How did you get started with your acting journey?
I was a really serious student, always really focused on academics. Because I was the first person in my family to go to college. Specifically on my mother's side, so I really wanted to prove myself. I was all in on my academics, but I realized I needed something fun to do too, so I joined Tiger's Next Top Model, and that's actually what helped me get into acting, because of all the pictures. A woman from LA saw my pictures and sent me a message randomly on Facebook. I'm like, who are you? She asked if I ever thought about acting, and I said no. Nah, my ex, who I was dating at the time, he was actually an actor, that was his passion. So I connected the agent with him. The agent said that she had an audition for Switched at Birth. Well, it wasn't really an audition. It was a call for background actors. I went with him. It was no big deal. We just walked around in the background and that was it. Easy. Someone saw me in the background and pointed me out. Who's that girl? Who's that girl? I want her to try out for this role we have next time. They contacted the agent, who eventually contacted me. She said, do you want to audition? I said no. No. I don't want to, at all. That's my boyfriend's dream, not mine. And she said, okay, fine. I promise I will leave you alone if you don't get this role. I accepted that deal and did the audition. I left and 2 days later, they said, you got it. Congratulations. I thought, what does that even mean? And the rest is history.
What was it like working on Switched at Birth?
Ironically, that was my first acting job, and I was already lucky to have access in the first place, which was really nice. With so many deaf actors, we each got an interpreter. We were able to chat easily with anyone on set without barriers. Support was provided and it was a safe, fun environment. For Switched at Birth, they also had a light that would flash when they started filming. Because sometimes, us deaf performers wouldn't realize we were being loud during filming. The flashing light would remind us to be quieter. I learned my lesson once when they were filming and I was eating a bag of chips. I didn't realize it was loud, until everybody turned to look at me. And I was like, what's wrong? They gently let me know the bag was too loud. Oh. And I put them away. I didn't realize it at all. So then I learned that if the light's flashing, I have to be quiet. When the show finished at season 5, I got work on another TV show. And I realized how different it is to be the only deaf in the cast. You know? It was weird, I couldn't be as social. Everything was so awkward and I had to educate people. I'd tell them, don't be nervous, and encourage them to sign their names, that kind of thing. It was weird, you know. Looking back, I was really lucky to have Switched at Birth as my first job. It was nice. I couldn't imagine what it was like for other deaf actors before me. Wow, yes, it was a really interesting experience.
You also starred in Ava's Story, a groundbreaking episode in the show Accused.
What was that experience like?
It was really nice to have a director who was deaf and a woman. Working woman to woman felt safe, like we could vibe easily, which was nice. And then Deaf to Deaf was like, oh my god. It felt like I could finally breathe. The conversations flowed so easily. She told me what she needed and I could give it to her completely. There was no second guessing or doubt at all. There was this full transparency and communication between us. It was lovely. I actually think it was one of the first times a director was able to give me the feedback I needed to hear. Previously with my hearing directors, I would ask them for feedback to make sure I'm delivering what they need. And they would go, no, yeah, good enough, you're fine. It would be pretty shallow feedback. Like, are you sure there isn't more I could be doing? But with Marley, I was able to give a full performance. And bring that character to life. It's really nice. I knew I wanted the character to. I mean, this is a very important story. I know out in the world people actually do this. So it was my responsibility to make sure that I delivered that character's feelings properly. All the other actors would hang out, you know, but I would be studying my lines. And then I would join them for a second, but go right back to studying. Because that's how serious I was about it. You know? It paid off in the end. And I was actually pregnant when we were filming. So it was extra sort of stressful and trippy.
Have you worked on hearing-led projects where you didn't agree with how the deaf character was being represented?
It's been almost. I'm not sure, but I think I've spent 10 years acting in various projects. They're pretty much all written by hearing people, and when they write deaf characters, it's often inaccurate or doesn't align with how I will be portraying the character. So sometimes I have to gently ask that they make adjustments. Then I have to explain my perspective. They say, "Wow, I never thought of it like that." Often I am the only deaf character with all hearing characters. I have to prompt, "Okay, why am I there? If everyone is speaking, do I understand them? They're acting like I understand, but I wouldn't. Not all deaf people are the same. But can't you read lips?" I have to explain everything. Often placement will be a problem, too. Like, maybe there are a few hearing people in front of me. If I cross in front of them, then I can't see them anymore. Those times I have to advocate for myself. There is no one on set who's looking specifically for that kind of thing. I generally have to speak up for myself, and it's exhausting. I'm educating and advocating all the time. Lately I've been on this TV show called Ntid. It's a comedy. And this would happen often. I would remind the directors of these things. Our producers are great, cool people for sure, but they are all men. So I would say, "Hey, remember what I told you? Oh, right. That happened a lot in season 1, it was tiring. When we got renewed for season 2 I said, that's it. I emailed our bosses and told them, we need a deaf dazzle, we need one. And they asked me to recommend someone. So I referred them to Jeremy Lee Stone. He's great. I wanted him because I knew he's very blunt. And he felt like a great fit with our team. I thought the cast would like him. So they flew him out to LA. Everyone could immediately see the difference. Everything changed. The script got better, the awareness on set got better. It felt like a huge improvement. It's very common, sometimes you just need to give them time, the cast and crew, to learn. It can still feel really out of place to be the only deaf person in a hearing cast, but it's very common. It can be frustrating, but it takes patience.
What is the purpose of deaf coaches, ASL consultants, and directors of artistic sign language, dazzles, in television and film?
Many people misunderstand what a deaf coach or dazzle actually does. They make sure that the actors are signing well, not just signing to the walls, but breaking through with facial expressions and body language. Not just straight-faced signing that we often see on TV. If there's only one deaf actor, then the dazzle is going to focus on the hearing actors as well, especially if the deaf actor already knows how to translate their lines for themselves. But the hearing actors need to learn their signed lines, and someone needs to make sure they're doing them properly. The dazzle will also educate them and advocate for the deaf cast. It's not just teaching sign language. It includes explaining the nuances and the different perspectives, making sure that the hearing people on set understand 100%. And creating a better working relationship with the deaf actors. The hearing actors and the crew will often ask really common questions about deaf people that might make us roll our eyes. We can refer them to the dazzle for those. Which is nice, it saves our time. Dazzles can also help the deaf actors. Because translating the English script to ASL can be confusing. It's easy for misunderstandings to happen because of grammar. Or because phrases might have different meanings than you expect. So dazzles really help both kinds of actors. Many people don't understand, they think it's the interpreter's responsibility to teach ASL, but it's not. You should hire a deaf dazzle, not just an interpreter. An interpreter's job is just to interpret, that's it. Which is why we need to be very clear and advocate for dazzles to be hired. They might say, but we don't have the money in the budget, so what?
Can you tell us more about your own production company, Pepita Productions?
Thinking about it, I've noticed in my journey as an actor in TV and film acting that I've gotten to the point where I'm starting to feel burnt out and a little over it. Because it's not an easy journey. There are not many deaf actors who are considered still working, you know? Thinking about my life, I'm incredibly grateful but still so lonely, isolated. And so I don't really get a lot of support. I found myself thinking, what can I do? That's where I decided to start a production company. But I was pregnant at the time, so I put the company on hold. I thought the company might be good for giving back. I could mentor, be a role model for people interested in acting, or getting involved with the entertainment industry. I figured I could share wisdom from my experiences, provide support, and generally give a safe space because they need that. But I put it on pause. Once my baby was born, I immediately felt a shift in myself. As a mom, I was immediately overprotective. I could feel my motherly instinct encouraging me. Okay, that's it, I need to get this company seriously started. I really feel like, wow, I have a whole new mindset now. As a mom, I feel this drive to support deaf actors, but where are they? Especially Latina deaf actors, where are they? I've been lonely. I know 5 or 10 years from now, I cannot do this alone, so I'm thinking about giving workshops and classes. I know that there's a lot of people who haven't had the opportunities or privileges I have, or maybe can't afford acting classes or don't have access. I got into this by accident, but it was a blessing, so that's why I made the company, to provide support wherever those actors need it when they're ready. Whenever they come, I'm there.
Can you expand on how being Latina has influenced your identity and experiences?
I grew up in a family that is loud and proud Puerto Rican. Always loud and unapologetic, really. So I always knew confidently, yeah, I'm Puerto Rican. Being deaf was different because I was the only deaf in my hearing family. I had to sort of wrestle with that. Then, when I went to a deaf institute, I felt even more out of place. Because the deaf community there was so strong. It was Maryland's deaf school. I transferred in 6th grade from mainstream school. I'd felt lonely there. Moved to a deaf school and felt even worse. I felt so removed in Maryland. It was also a strong white community at Maryland's school. So sometimes it felt like I was doubly isolated. It was frustrating. But it was a great education, so I was wrestling with that. I knew I needed stimulation, balance with a hearing world. That's why I came here to RIT. Yes. There was finally hearing and deaf balance here. But then, once again, I had to struggle with my ethnic identity. I spent a long time going back and forth because, being in the middle, there was no one place that fit me. And then when I went to LA, all of a sudden, there was a whole bunch of diversity, which was great. But, again, I was the only deaf one. To this day it's been exhausting. I think that's a big part of why I set up the company, to encourage people to be themselves. No one can tell you you're not deaf enough or not Latina enough. I decide for myself, just let me be me. You know.
What advice would you give to young deaf people who want to follow in your footsteps?
My advice for those young people is, make sure that you're willing to work hard. I mean, like double, triple as hard. And it's important not to have high hopes. It's true as deaf actors, and not just deaf. Honestly, disabled actors, too. We have to push. We have to get producers' attention. We have to offer ideas. We can't just sit back. No, you have to have a second and third job just to survive. That's why I always have a second and third job. When I get acting roles, I put my jobs on hold until I finish the project and return to them. Being able to hop back and forth is really important. And be wise with your money. Learn how to manage finances, that's absolutely vital. I'm talking about tax work. I'm talking about saving money. Make sure you know who you're paying, your managers and agents, and that you're looking at the contracts. And make sure nobody's taking advantage of you. Just make sure you know how it all works.
This program was made possible in part through funds from the Genesee Valley Council on the Arts and the New York State Senate.